The money, health, habits, and what's happening with Christina. I am Christina, where we talk about living well and living wise. So, this is just going to be a quick overview of today's topics. Today, we're diving into three things that can seriously upgrade your life: how to build healthy eating habits that actually stick, what to expect from federal hiring assessments and how to prep smart, and the truth about how high yield savings accounts are they really better than traditional ones? Whether you're meal planning, job hunting, or money saving, I've got tips to help you feel more confident, more informed, and more in control. So grab a snack, a healthy one, of course, get comfy, and let's jump in. So today we're going to be breaking down something that sounds complicated but really isn't: the difference between a traditional savings account and a high yield savings account, and which one might help you grow faster. Which one might help your money grow faster? Okay, so what does a traditional savings account do, Christina? It the account is the one most people already have at their regular bank. So my traditional bank account is USAA. I've been having USAA since maybe 2007. I got it when I was in the military. So that's probably the one you've had the longest. It's easy to access, it's easy to open, easy to access, and super convenient if your checking account is at the same place. But here's the catch: the interest rate is usually very low, often so low that your money barely grows at all. What a high yield savings account does, or HYSA, it works the same way. You deposit money, it earns interest, but the interest rate is much higher. These accounts are usually offered by online banks, which means they have lower overhead and can pass those savings on to you in the form of better rates. The real difference is how fast your money grows. Let's say you put the same amount of money in both accounts. In a traditional savings account, your money might grow just a few dollars a year. In a high yield savings account, that same money could grow several times faster without you doing anything extra. So with me, I switched to a high yield savings account about 2.5 years ago, and there's definitely a difference. So my interest, I'll be filing my taxes within the next couple of weeks. It's about almost $600 with my high yield savings account. That's mine. With my traditional savings account, with that low interest rate, I may get 10 cents per year, if that much. So you will definitely see the difference if you decide to switch over. Do your research. That's the best thing I can tell people to see what works for you. Safety and access, both type of accounts are typically insured. Oh, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. So both types of accounts are typically insured up to the standard federal limits, which means your money is protected. The main difference is access. Traditional accounts are great for quick transfers and ATM access. High yield accounts may take a day or two to move money, but you get a much better return. So last year I had to take out some money. It was my first time in 2.5 years taking out money, but it took me about 3 business days for the money to be transferred from my high yield account, which is I have it through Ally. They're not sponsoring this video. So I have Ally and it transferred it to USAA. Again, it took about 3 days. So again, with an account, a savings account, the goal is to keep it in there as long as possible. So with me keeping it in there over 2 years and then having to make a withdrawal, I felt good. And that was something that I had to do. So which one should you choose? If you want convenience and instant access, a traditional savings account works. But if you want your money to actually grow, especially for an emergency fund or long-term savings, a high yield savings account usually gives you more value. And again, I can just give you my experience. The bottom line, your money should work as hard as you do. Choosing the right savings account is one small habit that can make a big difference over time. Again, as previously stated, do your own research. The biggest con that I hear about high yield savings account is that they're online. And I actually like that. You can't, I don't want to say you can't easily access it. It just takes a little longer, a couple of days longer to get the money. So it may be something to look into. And we'll shift into something that supports everything you do. Our next topic, your energy, your focus, and even your mood. Healthy eating habits. These are simple, everyday choices anyone can start practicing. And as always, if you have personal health concerns or medical conditions, it's a good idea to check in with a qualified healthcare professional who can give guidance tailored to your needs. So something that's worked for me down throughout the years is eating more whole foods. Whole foods are the foods that look the way nature made them. Fruits, veggies, whole grains, beans, nuts, and lean proteins. Adding more whole foods doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be as easy as choosing an apple instead of a pastry, or adding a veggie to your lunch. These foods give your body fiber, vitamins, and minerals that help keep your energy steady throughout the day. I just found that making small, subtle changes normally came off a little better than, trying to make a drastic change. Like I'll throw a handful of greens into some rice that I'm making and then just cut back on the amount of times I eat rice within a month or a week. But just little subtle changes can make a huge difference. Staying hydrated is also a crucial factor, and it plays a big role in how you feel. Drinking water regularly helps with digestion, focus, and overall energy. Keeping a water bottle nearby or setting small reminders can make it easier to stay on track. We're going to limiting added sugars, which that was huge for me. Added sugars show up in more places than you'd expect. Drinks, snacks, sauces, even foods that seem healthy. That's why reading the labels, that's very important. Too much added sugar can make your energy spike and crash. Okay? You make your energy spike and you will just crash. Choosing foods with natural sweetness like fruit can help you cut back without feeling like you're missing out. Even with fruit, some people, an apple for them is too much sugar. So you have to do what works for your body. A balanced plate helps you stay full and satisfied. One simple way to think about it is half your plate fruits and veggies, a quarter lean protein, a quarter whole grains or starchy veggies. This typically gives your body a mix of nutrients and keeps meals flexible and enjoyable. Again, you have to do what works for your body. Okay, so now that we've talked about taking care of your body, let's switch gears and talk about taking care of your career, especially if you're thinking about applying for a federal job. One thing that surprises a lot of people is that many federal positions require assessments, and understanding them can make the whole process feel less intimidating. And from what I've been able to witness, especially with it's called the USA Hire Assessment, I'm seeing that more on job vacancies than I've ever seen in times past. I was a federal employee up until last September. I took the deferred resignation offer that was that was offered by this current administration because I left one federal job after being there a couple of years and I wanted to do something different, which threw me into a probationary status. So I became a probationary employee simply because I switched jobs. I already had passed a probationary period, but once you change jobs into a different occupational series, then that throws you back into the probationary status. So that's what happened in my situation. And even before I switched jobs, I was an HR specialist. Of course, that doesn't make me an expert, so I'm not speaking on behalf of the federal government or anything like that. It was just during my time as an HR specialist, I attached the USA Hire assessment to maybe a couple of jobs in my 2 years there. It wasn't a big thing for our agency. Now I see them on almost all vacancies, each and every last vacancy almost. And it's very interesting. And you just have to be careful with those assessments. There are different types of assessment, but this one, the main one is the USA Hire assessment that I'm speaking about. The situational judgment, personality assessment, skill test, job knowledge, again, just a myriad of tests brought on by the federal government. Some have been in existence for years. I think probably all of them have. Developed by psychologists and other professionals. I'm sure some of my research just said psychologists stood out. And what they call them, organizational psychologists. It's a term that was used when I was doing some research. So just be careful with these assessments. Make sure you take them seriously. And something I didn't know about, I didn't find out about until last week, was you can actually take practice assessments. I had never heard of that. So just do your research. The skill tests, these measure things like writing, math, or technical abilities. Situational judgment tests, these present workplace scenarios and ask, how do you respond? Those are very interesting. If you haven't taken the assessment, again, that's very interesting. Structured interviews, we probably know what those are. These follow a consistent set of questions to evaluate your competency. Each one helps hiring teams understand your strengths and how you might perform on the job. So how best to approach them? Again, as I previously mentioned, some of the things, clarity and honesty. Practice. Read each question carefully. Think about your real experience and answer in a way that reflects your actual skill level. These assessments aren't about perfection. They're about finding the right match between you and the role. I do have a couple of questions. I got a question mark up above my head because some people have been in roles for years and they decide to leave or do something else. And they try to come back into that role and they have to take the USA Hire assessment. And the assessment will actually deem them ineligible based on their score when they've already done the job. So that's my hesitation. The federal jobs often involve public service, policy, or programs that impact communities. Assessments help ensure that applicants are prepared for the responsibilities that come with those roles. Understanding the process can help you feel more confident and prepared as you move through your application. At least that's the goal, supposedly. So take them seriously, do the practice assessments, and then try to tackle it. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Money, Health, Habits, and what's happening with Christina. Again, I'm getting over a cold, so forgive any discrepancies in my voice. We've covered how to eat smarter, prep for federal hiring assessments, and make your savings work harder. All part of living well and living wise. Remember, healthy habits, smart money moves, and career confidence go hand in hand. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who's ready to level up their life. Leave me a comment too. What do you want to see in the future? I have some thoughts in my mind, but let me know. Until the next time, stay healthy, stay curious, and keep growing.